Okay, now that SQL Server is stood up, let's take a look at loading some data into it. I'm starting here with the DB import Excel file. So it comes with the downloads of this module. And what you can do here simply is save it as a CSV. So we're going to do save as, computer, find a place, and instead of saving it as an Excel workbook, we're going to do a CSV file. And a CSV stands for comma separated values. Now before we do that, if you're doing this on a different sheet, you're going to want to make sure that all of your formatting is kind of removed with the exception of dates. What will happen is if I were to save this as a CSV now with this % sign here, it would actually treat it as a piece of text, and that's not going to be good later when we want to write a query against it. Same goes for our dollar signs here and any of the other number formatting columns that we have going on. The dates, however, we do want to keep as date values, because if we were to change this to general, it would actually show as a number, because this is how Excel actually stores this. Now, instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to leave it as a date and then save it as a CSV there. So here's what it looks like after we've saved as a CSV. Notice the formatting's gone and the columns aren't calculations anymore. They're just all the raw values. And looking at all these here, it looks like everything is stored correctly. So this is how we want to get our format for this example where we're going to load the data into SQL Server. And before we move on, there's one additional step I want to highlight, and that is removing any additional spaces or anything inside of the column headers. With this, it's going to cause a problem when we try to import it once to create our table. So I'm just going to go ahead and make these a bit more database friendly. So by that I mean there's no spaces and that everything is using the kind of camel case here. Notice how this one has a space before and after. We'll get rid of those. Get rid of these guys. Good to go. So whatever file you're using here, make sure that you've removed any spaces, leading, trailing, in between, etc. This way when we go to import to the database, everything is going to be real nice and ready to go. Here in this example, make sure, or recommendation is that you use uppercase for everything to separate the words. That way it's real easy to read. Okay, good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and save this now. It's going to give me the errors like it likes to. Go ahead and close it. I'll say don't save because I've already done that. Now we're going to open Management Studio. So from your program menu here, you should be able to go to All Programs, SQL Server 2014, and Management Studio. Management Studio is where we do everything basically in SQL Server. And so this, you should be able to connect immediately with your Windows account. And we're in here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a database called Cogsley Services DB. I had done this before, so let me just show you how to redo that. I'll delete this one first. Hit OK. Right click and say New Database. Cogsley Services DB. Leave everything default for now. And there you go. Now when we open this guy up here, we have tables and we have views and we have programmability, such as stored procedures, really useful things when building kind of more complex applications. Won't get into any of this detail here because this course is just kind of at the high level. But there are many courses on SQL Server in our library you can use. So I'm going to right click on this Cogsley Services DB and go to Tasks. And down here I'm going to say Import Data. This will open up my Import Export wizard. I'm going to click Next, and what we're going to look for our data source is a flat file. The flat file here is going to be the CSV, and with that, that's the one from the demos for this module, or whichever one you happen to be using would be fine. If you generated it from Excel, you're going to need to use a double quotes as the text qualifier. That's what it uses anytime it finds text with other commas or things in it. It puts double quotes around it to make sure it doesn't mess up the kind of ordering. We'll click Next. You can see here that we're previewing some rows and everything looks to be in order. Sometimes if you didn't have that text qualifier, some of the other pieces, these won't line up properly. That all looks good. If I had a different delimiter as well, I could change that. I'm going to go to Advanced because I think that I want to show all of the details here. So this is exactly what it's doing. It's generating, it's assuming a lot about the metadata here. So each one of these fields, it has the width of the column, the type of column, all that kind of a thing. I can go to preview and I can see what it looks like. All looks good to me. Now we're going to choose a destination. Here I'm going to look at SQL Server. I'll connect to the database that already is there. And voila, it actually created a table for me. So here we have create destination table. We have edit SQL. This is the code it's actually running. Don't worry about that right now, but if you did want to edit that, you can. I can scroll down. I can see the data types. So like in Excel, we have formats, so currency and dates and those kind of things. A varchar is a text-based format that is variable in length. So that's fine for now. We could change that and mess with it, but I'm just going to leave it as is because I just want to get the data in there. Click next a couple more times and then click finish. Oh, we got an error. Let's see what's going on here. It's saying the data conversion for the column industry returned a status value for and status text. Text was truncated and one or more characters had no match, etc. So truncated, what this is telling me is that the field industry, I'm trying to put it into a column in a database that it doesn't fit. And it happens to be specified that it could truncate it, but in this case, that gives us an error and fails because it wouldn't be able to load the data properly or completely. So what I could do here is I can go back and edit the mappings. Now I'm going to have to, in this case, make sure I do drop and recreate destination table so that it recreates it. And let's go ahead and go down to industry. Just add a 0 to the end of this, and we'll do it for sector as well. I'm guessing that that one's probably a bit long. Click next, get all the way down there. Oh, still got an error. So still getting that same error, which means it's not our destination table. It's actually all the way back to our flat file source under advanced. So what's happening here is that the SQL Server tools, and the one behind the scenes here is called integration services, is very particular about data types. It's very, very picky about this. So it doesn't recognize that if this field that it's pulling from is greater than 50, the output column width that it's expecting, it's going to fail. And so we have to edit that there as well. So now let me go click next, edit the mappings. Now here we are doing an append rows to the destination table. It's not exactly what I want. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cheat it a little bit. I'm going to go back one. If I jump over to Management Studio, click on the drop down and refresh, you can see that my table's here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this table. Okay, now let's jump back to our import wizard. Here we go. Now let's edit some mappings. Let's refresh, click next. Here we go. Now we're going to create the new table. And let's see what kind of metadata it has. So it picked up the metadata coming from the file, which is what we wanted. Click next, and finish. And there we go. You got about 8,400 rows transferred. We can look at a report and we can see what kind of stuff was happening. You can see all the different steps that occurred and messages and any warnings or anything like that. But in the end, that's that. The data's in there. So let's go to tables, refresh. Now I can expand this and I can see, as I mentioned before, columns. So it picked up all the names and the data types. If I right click on this, I can say select top 1,000 rows. This is how I retrieve data with a query here. This is getting into SQL. Kind of scripted it for me. But you can see, there we go. The data is now in our database. So we've accomplished that. And I wanted to specifically not show a demo that just works perfectly without any errors. I intentionally wanted to show the ability to troubleshoot and focus on, because I know it's always frustrating when you see something online and it worked perfect and you go to do it yourself and you get lost and there's an error and you're completely lost. So that exercise was there as a way for you to understand kind of the different ways and places to look, at least one example. As you work more and more with this, what you'll see is that you just get to the point where it's kind of intuitive. You see a message and you know exactly where to go look. And these tools, just like all computer systems, are prone to these types of errors. So don't be surprised if you hit them. Don't imagine everything is going to go smoothly every time.